The Quran tells us in Surat al-Kahf that of Dhul-Qarnayn he was a wanderer roaming the horizons. He has gone to the far east and the far west, as well as to the far north of the earth. And in the ancient Arab maps, drawn by ancient Muslim scholars, such as Al-Sharif al-Idrisi, Al-Qazwini, Ibn Aqil, and Al-Mustafi, we find that they have all identified on those maps the place where Gog and Magog is supposed to be. In the far north. In the far north of Siberia. Some of these maps are up to 1,000 years old. These maps are found in the Atlas of the History of Islam. For the great historian, Dr. Hussein Moanis, Dhul-Qarnayn in the Quran was his miracle. It is this travel and roaming by miraculous means, through the empowerment and ability of God, in times when there was no technology that could reach these vast and very remote places. Where the Quran says, "And they ask you on the authority of Dhul-Qarnayn, say, I will recite to you some of him in remembrance. We have established for him a reason on the earth and gave him a reason for everything. So he followed a reason." This support is one of the supernatural causes. It is the miracle of Dhul-Qarnayn, which God gave him. And when you read these Quranic verses that tell us this story, you find that there is something that requires us to pause for a long time and contemplate its meaning. The verse that says, "When he reached the rising of the sun, he found it rising on a people for whom we did not make any curtain between them and the sun." As the veil and the curtain that is meant here is the night. The verse specifically speaks of a people who do not know this curtain, the night, and that the sun always appears on their lands. This is the nature of the area in which they live. And so God made it that way. Could this be a reference to the far north of the earth, where the sun actually remains shining and never sets? Thus, the meaning of the verse becomes clear. That is, there is no veil between the sun and these people. This is the only place on the maps by the nature of the site in which the sun never veils. Is this the reason why the ancient Muslim scholars put the place, Gog and Magog, in this region on their maps in the far north of the earth? And define this particular place accurately. And the most amazing thing is that they all did this on the maps without exception. And the second note in the Quranic verse. Why did God call it, the place dedicated to the rising of the sun? And he did not say, the direction of the east or the rising of the sun, as usual. The differences in the meanings of these words are great in the Arabic language, and the Arabs understand them well. And the exact meaning of this word, exactly, the place where the sun does not set. Why did the Quran specify this meaning in particular? Simply because the intended meaning is actually different. It describes something and a scene other than just a sunrise. It describes a place where the sun is constantly visible. All of this confirms the view that Dhul-Qarnayn at this time was in front of the polar sun, which has no veil between it and the people, where there is no night at all. And not only that, as we must also bear in mind that the ancient Muslim geographers identified the same place on the maps. All these indications make us at ease when we think that the place of Gog and Magog, and those people whom Dhul-Qarnayn met, was somewhere very close to this polar region. And that dam that Dhul-Qarnayn built as a barrier between them and these people, and they are in their hideouts there. So far we know nothing about them. And this last point makes us think about what is said about the hollow earth, and those many books that mention the subject of the hollow earth, where it is said that there is a huge cavity in the earth's interior, and it has two openings or two gates at the poles, north and south, as an independent world. It is inhabited by many creatures, and it is even illuminated by rocks radiating with light. And there is a testimony from one of the pilots, who suddenly lost his way in the North Pole sky. and there he saw some short creatures, coming out from somewhere in the North Pole, specifically from a land gate in the North Pole. There is also the testimony of many travelers, who said that they saw in these polar regions, the wooden stems of trees of tropical origin, and plants and many types of flowers and roses, which are supposed to only grow in the tropics. They saw her floating on the surface of the water in the Arctic regions. Here lies the question: how do these trees and plants come from the tropics, and reach the North Pole? The explanation for this is only that these trees and plants have come out of the hollow of the earth, from that lower world extending to the tropics, and those creatures that can bring things from there, and bring them out from that polar gate. Will Gog and Magog be the inhabitants of the underground? Are they one specific race or several different races of the same main species, capable of life in this world? No one knows with certainty, and the verses of the Quran that mentioned this story are still among the secrets that the commentators have differed in their interpretation. Also, no one knows whether Gog and Magog are human races, or are they completely other creatures.